behalf of AFCEA Hawaii and AFCEA International, aloha and welcome to Day 3 of the 40th AFCEA TechNet Indo-Pacific Conference. I'm Major Isaiah Gomez with the J6 Directorate at US Indo-Pacific Command, and it is my pleasure to be your MC on this last day of our conference. As a courtesy to our keynote speaker and fellow professionals, we ask that you silence your communication devices at this time. I would now like to introduce and welcome Chaplain Wayne Hall of Marine Forces Pacific up on stage to give the morning benediction. Thank you.
Good morning. Would you join me in prayer, please? Almighty God, author of every good thing, we ask that you would be with us today as we gather to close out this year's TechNet gathering. We are thankful for the hard work that has gone into this conference and for the relationships that have been forged across so many communities over these past few days. Father, we thank you for the creativity and the wisdom that you have granted to the people who have dedicated themselves to supporting our warfighters' ability to shoot, move, and to communicate, and to do so in the ever-changing and ever-challenging Indo-Pacific region. We humbly ask that you would grant our leaders in government, in industry, and in the military the vision to set the course to peace through our relationships with our allies and our partners throughout the region and through the strength of our military. May we leave this place invigorated to find solutions to the challenges that our young Marines and sailors, soldiers and airmen will face on the battlefield. And let us never forget that it is ultimately their precious lives that have been entrusted into our hands. Bless our speakers and presenters as we go throughout this last day, and bless us as we go forth into the paths that you have set before us. And I ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain, for those words of inspiration and wisdom as we conclude our conference today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to introduce this morning's keynote speaker, a combat-tested leader and strategic thinker. Lieutenant General James F. Glynn has distinguished himself throughout his 36-year career marked by exceptional service, courage, and leadership. He has held command at every level of the Marine Corps, to include leading Marines in combat during operations Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and Iraqi Freedom. His strategic expertise has included senior roles in the Pentagon and Theater Special Operations Command Africa, and Deputy Commanding General in Operation Inherent Resolve. Throughout his career, he has exemplified the highest standards of honor, courage, and commitment with an unshakable devotion to the Marines he serves. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Lieutenant General James F. Glynn, Commander, Marine Forces Pacific. His full biography is available at the AFCEA TechNet Indo-Pacific 25 app for those interested in learning more about his distinguished career. If you have any questions for the General, please text them to the email addresses located on the screen. And please be cognizant of time and also classifications. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's see. You got me on here? Good, thanks. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. For those of you that were willing to brave a 0800 start time on a Thursday, you know, the typical rule is don't go big the first night, but that doesn't preclude the last night. So I presume, you know, the rest of the folks, as Susan and I were talking about, right, are paying their dues right now. But if you're going to soar with the eagles, you got to claw with the chickens, is what my grandfather told me anyway. To Susan and Dick, to AFCEA International and locally, thank you for the invitation. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. Thanks for all you're doing. Thanks to one of your great staff members. I had a chance on Tuesday when I was here briefly to listen to Admiral Kaler and walk around a little bit to see what you're doing with the young folks. If you haven't seen it, I was telling my staff yesterday, what did we see? Cyber capture the flag and drone competition teams. These kids are like 13, middle school, 14 years old, right? We're trying to teach Marines. We think, people of my generation think we have to teach Marines how to use this stuff. What I learned seeing them the other day is like, absolutely not. We need to get out of their way and give them the opportunity to do what they already know how to do. You saw it. They taught me how to fly a drone. And obviously a good instructor because I didn't crash it, which was pretty impressive. I haven't been able to hear everybody speak, but I heard Admiral Kaler speak, and I did it for a reason because if you understand how we organize out here in the Pacific, yes, the title says Commander, Fleet Marine Forces Pacific, Marine Forces Pacific. I will focus on that piece of it because I know you've heard from many of my colleagues over the course of the last 2 days. But I'm also the Deputy JTF Commander with Admiral Kaler as the JTF, the Joint Task Force Commander out here. So, you know, when we get into questions and answers, sometimes for me it's hard to distinguish between the two roles, you know, what we're doing and how we're doing it. And interestingly enough, given the Marine Corps' presence in the Pacific, in the first island chain, with what we call 2 MEFs abreast, and I'm not going to talk a lot about that this morning unless you want to ask about it, it puts us in a front row seat for what's required at the tactical edge, which is what I'm going to talk about this morning. Like what it takes to take, you know, computing power, as we were talking about the other day, computing power that might be done here or back in the continental United States and transport the outcome of it to the tactical edge, which is, you know, when you get right down to it, what we actually need. We don't, I'll get into what we don't have here in a minute. Having been to 1 or 2 of these over the course of you know, the couple years I've been in uniform, I decided to take a different approach today, and I hope that those of you that decided to show up will enjoy it. Rather than going through all of our needs and wants, which you've gotten from everybody else, I'm going to tell you a story. And it's largely a fictional story, except like the technology I'm going to speak to is real. And you know it's real because you dabble in it much more than I do. We're consumers of it. And it might sound strikingly like Ghost Fleet, which is not unintentional. I mean, we are in Hawaii. That is, you know, both the target and the backdrop of that model, of that novel, if you haven't read it. I commend it to you. So if you'll bear with me here, you know, you can close your eyes if you want to, freshen your coffee cup. It's not a long story, and I'll revisit it at the end with a little more specificity about the technology. But let's just, you know, go with me as a group of Marines who are in civilian clothes on a ferry somewhere in the Western Pacific have been tasked with a job to do. And maybe they're part of a Marine Littoral Regiment, but frankly, they could be part of any one of our expeditionary advance-based operations that we envision in the Pacific. And maybe they're a team of 4, what we would call a fire team. Maybe they're a team of 12, what we would call a squad. But the point is, they're doing everything they can to use the means to move to location where they have to be to conduct the operation that they've been tasked to do. So just imagine. They're aboard a civilian ferry, and they're within the first island chain, dressed in clothes of nearly all the youngish travelers that they find alongside them on this ferry. Shorts or jeans, T-shirts emblazoned with a foreign location or a beer logo. They are doing what they need to do to be as indistinguishable from their civilian fellow travelers as they can be. They appear routine, but they and their objective are anything but. As they sail ever closer to their objective, their nerves jingle and the tension creeps in them. They're Marines, however, and they carry, well, as of next week, we'll celebrate this week, 250 years of inheritance of exceptionalism, and their training and briefings ensure they don't give themselves away. As the tools and the tech in their backpacks, in their pockets, and on their bodies silently does the heavy lifting. Information's being collected, shared, synthesized, and analyzed, employed, and occasionally discarded at a symmetrical rate exceeding 2 gigabytes per second. Moore's law embodied, right? That's about the extent of my technical knowledge. There you go. The team exits with the throngs of others on the ferry undetected. They move in plain sight while gathering intel, being fed real-time updates under the watchful, helpful, yet remote eyes of the best teams imaginable, those in their chain of command. Some enter a prearranged bar, others a neighboring cafe, several keep watch from outside, while the others enter and switch into their combat kit and check their equipment for functionality and updates. Within minutes, they're fully geared up and moving on foot towards their objective. Now they switch to low bandwidth draw satellites, and unmanned vessels that are driving intel to keep them on the move and unimpeded. There's no need for them to pause or recalibrate. They operate in real time with multi-orbit communications, predictive analytics, and hybrid cloud systems providing them with an immediate, actionable picture of the battlefield that they enter. So thanks for following. I'll come back to it. You'll hear many of those things again. This vignette, as you realize, is not completely science fiction. It reflects a reality that is almost complete, but not to the extent that we need it to be. Maneuver at the speed of relevant lethality is critical in this dynamic environment. We need to get this right. There's no alternative. Status quo, as Admiral Kaler said on Tuesday, in the realm of AI and warfare, losing market share and not being bested, but the actual loss of life. I'll not belabor the point by naming current examples of AI and tech driving the battlefield and changing our understanding of how the world defines warfare. But I will reinforce what you've heard from other speakers this week, because we are actually doing it, and we can talk about it. We stand at a pivotal point. The tools to maintain operational and decisional advantage are within our grasp. And yet, let me be very clear. When I say our grasp, I mean us, American private sector, as surely as those of us that are in uniform. Together, we face the question, how do we field, and probably most importantly, integrate these capabilities rapidly enough to maintain the edge that's necessary? In the scenario described, the technology enabling that seamless battlefield integration already exists. Apart from the sync gigabyte speed, right, which I referred to, the AI, the cloud integration, the low bandwidth transport, they are all available today. It's now incumbent on us to harness their full potential through integration. As I mentioned, the integration of AI into warfighting functions for us is among the most impactful shifts we've seen to date. It's often said that AI is the most consequential technology since the internet, and that for us seems to be true. For warfighters, it's tantamount to the weaponization of gunpowder. Those that cannot master it will be consumed by it. Information, particularly in competition, in the competition phase, is among our most critical warfighting functions. Our efforts require an information data-centric environment that I described, and I'm going to come back to it. So we're integrating using the Vultus, which many of you will be familiar with, framework. Visible, accessible, understandable, linked, trustworthy, interoperable, and secure. You know, achieving all those simultaneously is what we desire. We know they're not all mutually supportable all the time. By embodying AI across all warfighting functions, from logistics to maneuver to the electromagnetic spectrum, we accelerate decision-making, enhance combat power at the time and place of our choosing, ensure that our forces can operate with speed, precision, and lethality. On Tuesday, there was a question of Admiral Kaler about the RF spectrum, the radio frequency spectrum. In today's changing operational environment, relying solely on one communication means is not feasible for us. It's been proven time and again, not just in the Indo-Pacific, certainly in the Central Command AOR. Command and control in the operating environment requires diversification of communication solutions, preferably those that repair themselves or have the ability to prioritize data transmission based on precedence or location. Innovation cycles demand that we have diverse and rapidly adaptable simultaneous comms that ensure we don't miss a millisecond when an adversary comes against us. The word millisecond chosen purposely when you think about precision timing and targeting and other things. Moving beyond traditional, imagine that I refer to traditional PLEO systems like Starlink. How quickly traditional becomes vogue. We need multi-band, multi-orbit communication technologies in multiple domains. ManNet, mobile ad hoc networks, 5G, 6G, unmanned systems, even aerial platforms like high-altitude balloons. These systems enable mesh pathways that can assure C2 in the contested environment in which we operate every day today. Ensuring we can trust the data, and operate with flexibility and resilience no matter what challenges arise. MANET, 5G, unmanned systems, aerial platforms can seamlessly work together to create a resilient and flexible communication network necessary for our military operations. The reality of the Indo-Pacific is that many areas do not offer the luxury of high bandwidth capabilities. But in a contested environment, bandwidth is not just a challenge, it's a vulnerability. In some areas, the bandwidth does exist was built by our nation's competitors or even our adversaries, meaning the data that moves across it we cannot trust. We seek low bandwidth systems that can work efficiently even when the data pipes are narrow. By optimizing transmission times, reducing data consumption, and providing a more accurate, real-time picture of the battlefield, these systems are crucial for effective decision-making and mission success. Autonomous systems. We must exploit the advances in command and control of autonomous systems. The proliferation of those systems that we're working with now is moving faster than our ability to integrate the command and control of them. The systems are clearly high impact, enabling distributed lethality and ensuring decision superiority. Autonomous systems allow us to rapidly adapt to dynamic threats, providing scale that ensures synchronized operations across multiple domains. And they help us move at the dynamic speed of combat, no matter how dispersed our forces are or become. Achieving systems overmatch requires seamless collaboration and synchronization, not just with our own forces, but with our coalition partners. When I was here on Tuesday, there were questions about allies and partners. When it's synchronizing command and control, logistics, fires, the ability to work together with allied networks is critical to success across the Indo-Pacific. Just late last spring, summer, we completed Pacific Century 25-2 that involved detailed coordination of exactly those things, specifically with the Australians and Japan. We must increase exploration of low-cost, interoperable solutions such as sensitive but unclassified encrypted environments which offer enhanced security and collaboration without relying on expensive or overly fragile systems. Cloud technologies at LtGen are a critical enabler of our ability to scale, remain resilient, and secure operations. Hybrid cloud infrastructure allows us to synchronize data access and enable decision-making across tactical and operational levels, even in contested environments. In the complex electromagnetic environment we face right now, we also have to understand our signature and how we appear in the electromagnetic spectrum. Low-cost solutions for what we refer to as own force monitoring provide insight into potential threats, ensuring we don't shine a spotlight on ourselves, which improves our ability to conduct not just our own operations by hiding within plain sight, but conduct our own electromagnetic warfare. These technologies help us with tactical deception and maintaining operational effectiveness in complex environments. And I invite you to ask me about tactical deception and decoys. I'll go to the answer right now. I submit to you that some of your throwaways could be effective decoys for us if they're affordable. So if you would, go back with me to the story that I opened with, and just imagine now the incorporation of some of what I just spoke about. As part of an operation that for this purpose I'll call Pacific Shield, that's made up, several Marines of the same size I described earlier are deployed in plain clothes, blending in with the local population as they travel aboard a ferry toward an island nation in the first island chain. The situation is tense, the urgency is palpable. As they move through the crowd, they carry nothing but ordinary backpacks, but inside these backpacks lie the power of the cutting-edge technology I mentioned. Their gears working quietly and effectively behind the scenes. Through MANET, their systems are constantly collecting data, communicating their location, refining target information in real time. without them needing to pull anything out or break stride towards their objective. This seamless integration of data ensures they're always connected to the command and control environment that's required. The team moves through the port area into an urban environment and just another group of people on the move to those around them. But as they near the suburbs, approach their objective, and know they're more challenged to hide in plain sight, even the electromagnetic spectrum, they duck into a small room or even a public bathroom. Here they stop for just a moment to switch into their combat gear. 2 Marines stand watch outside. The others check their equipment, ensuring everything's up to date and confirming that the communication systems are connected and working without their physical monitoring of them. It's not just a quick gear check. It's a vital moment for confirming their integration with the broader operational network. Through the hybrid cloud and the AI-driven systems, these Marines are receiving real-time updates on enemy positions, any changes to the mission status, and even predictive analytics that help them adjust their decision-making and potentially their approach. The technologies continuously refine their operational status, ensuring when they engage in the fight, they do so at the time of their choosing with the most current actionable intelligence. Once prepared to move, the Marines head towards their objective, confident that the tools inside their backpacks are already synchronized with the mission's needs in mind. The data they've already gathered and updated continues to flow seamlessly, not only enhancing their situational awareness, but providing real-time intelligence updates to their higher headquarters. They're operating in a fully integrated command and control environment. There are no delays. There's no need to wait for updates. Everything they need to act is available to them when they need it. At this point, they're ready to engage multiple domains at once. Traditionally, we'd talk about air, land, and sea, the Marine Air Ground Task Force. In this case, I'd highlight space and cyber. Thanks to multi-orbit communications and 5G-enabled systems, they're connected to AI-powered analytics that help them and their chain of command prioritize targets and direct their movements to keep them out of harm's way, based on data streams available from all available sources, not just the ones they carry. Whether those are unmanned aerial, unmanned subsurface surveillance, satellite feeds, or a sensor network that was long since in place. As they get closer to their objective, these systems, whether droned or unmanned vehicles, are providing supplementary information about the enemy's movements and positioning. These systems operate on autonomous decision-making algorithms, guided by AI to maintain synchronized operations across all the aforementioned domains, ensuring their actions stay aligned with their commander's intent and the dynamic changes to the mission at the speed of combat. The moment they have synthesized all the required information, they are both authorized and execute a closing of what we call the kill chain. The enemy target is identified, tracked, and ready for engagement. An F-35B from another task force is the weapon recommended by the system to prosecute the target for no other reason than it had the payload and proximity to do it the best. Like the ride-sharing app you'll use to get to the airport this evening, but this isn't just a simple strike. It's part of a broader kill web, an interconnected real-time flow of intelligence, decisions, and actions across multiple units, both U.S., ally, and partner. Around them, in this kill web, as an example, the U.S. Navy is monitoring the surrounding seas. Ally A's Air Force is tracking air threats. Ally B's forces are coordinating surface fire support. All these partners have access to the same secure, interoperable communication networks that allow them to contribute to the operation without hesitation. The metadata automatically stripped, making it shareable. After all, they don't need to know where it came from, they just need to know. This coalition-level integration forms a systems overmatch, ensuring that all units, no matter their domain, can strike in unison and overwhelm the adversary. Meanwhile, low-bandwidth systems are ensuring communications remain intact, even in environments where high-speed connections aren't possible. These Marines on the ground continue to receive updates, adjust their approach, and make real-time decisions with the full support of this network that's been created for this mission. Once that target is engaged, the AI system analyzes results and instantly feeds this data back into the system. And as the situation evolves, new intelligence is fed directly to the Marines and their chain of command, enabling them to adjust and adapt quickly, closing more kill chains, creating additional kill webs for future actions. This entire operation, from initial engagement to final strike, is executed at the speed of decision, all thanks to the integration of ManNet, 5G, unmanned systems, autonomous systems, hybrid cloud technologies, AI-driven insights. It enables coalition forces, leverages secure interoperable networks and low-cost solutions, and collaborates to synchronize command and control, logistics, fires, maneuver, and enable a real-time battlefield picture that guarantees mission success. This fictional operation isn't entirely fictional. Parts and pieces of that are being executed as we sit here this morning. The integration, how powerful the integration of these technologies can be, you know better than I. These systems and their data don't just support our forces, they enable them to move faster, strike first, and adapt instantly in real time. With these tools, as I hope you can see in the scenario, we're able to close kill chains more efficiently and create kill webs that remain connected in all domains: air, sea, land, cyber, space. The technology we've discussed isn't some distant future. It's available now, and it's already making an impact on the battlefield. So in closing, where do we go from here? Most of what I've raised today is already available. The real challenge is integrating it at echelon. We need your help to deliver these solutions directly into the hands of our Marines and, frankly, the broader joint force, as you've heard throughout the week. Not in 5 years, not in the standard acquisition cycle, right, that we all know and loathe, but now, quickly, at scale. We need AI tools that are field ready, user-friendly and deployable without requiring a team of data scientists to support it. We seek communication transmission solutions that are adaptable on the fly, ones that don't require new hardware every couple of years, but can be reprogrammed with software, ready to integrate with coalition networks from day one. Any of you that have worked on the Indo-PACOM mission network, I'm looking at the Indo-PACOM J6, know what you passed along to him as we prepared to execute Keen Edge on exactly that system. We favor low bandwidth solutions that keep our forces connected, can be trusted, even in the most contested environment. So, as you've listened to this today, I hope it's been mildly entertaining, something a little bit different. Think about the solutions that you can offer. Think about how your innovations can make a real difference in the contested space that I've described, because it's not a futuristic contested space, it's the environment we find ourselves operating in today. I'm not looking for theoretical roadmaps. We get a lot of visitors from industry with a lot of theoretical roadmaps towards what's in the realm of possible. We, as the force that's in the first island chain, seek partners who can help us put these capabilities into action. I remind all of us that nothing wilts faster than the laurels that are rested upon. If you have solutions you can deliver now, Mar4 PAC might be your customer. We're happy to hear what you have to offer. Our adversaries are not waiting, neither can we. I'm ready to take your questions. If they're technology-based, I remind you that I have both a panel of experts coming up after me and a group of Mar4 PAC folks that are living this dream every day that are sticking around at 1300 to answer the detailed questions, but I thank you for indulging me in this little vignette. It was fun to imagine, and probably worth mentioning, about 80% of what I just presented to you was AI enabled. Our own ideas, my staff's input, my personal edit, but much of what you just got was about 80% AI generated. So thanks, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, sir. The first question from the audience this morning. Can you talk a little more about 2MEF's Abreast?
was about 80%. That's easy, yeah. Where to begin? So what hasn't changed since the 1940s is the geography of the Indo-Pacific. Depending on which side of the first and second island chains you call home, one is a home game, the other is an away game. And in our case, the recognition of the away game was what drove force design for the United States Marine Corps. The notion that, really that vignette that I just gave you, which is a very tactical vignette, when you think about the traditional warfighting functions of intelligence and logistics and fires and all that it takes to position consequential combat power and support it in contact. You don't have to look deep into history books to see what we assembled in the Pacific operating area under General MacArthur and Admiral Nimitz. And in the modern era, of course, moving from point A to point B is one of the most challenging pieces of it. And that was the advent, not just of force design, but 2 MEFs abreast. When you create a force with these capabilities, like we have done in force design, that is capable of doing the things that I just described, how do you put it in a position of consequence? And when I say position of consequence, what I mean, Admiral Kaler stood up here and said, our principal role in Indo-Pacific is to, just as your logo says, maintain a free, open, and prosperous Indo-Pacific, and to deter the conflict that would act in the contrary to that, right? So in order to deter, where do you have to be to do that? At the invitation of our allies, specifically in this case, Korea, Japan, and Australia, and the Philippines, we saw opportunity collaboratively that extends from the Marine Rotational Force Darwin, MRF-D, in Australia, through the Marine Rotational Force Southeast Asia, which is in the Philippines time now, to the traditional 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force, which is in and has been for a long time in Okinawa, Japan. And when you take that MAGTF of 2 Marine Expeditionary Forces, think about 2 air wings, 2 Marine divisions, 2 Marine logistics groups, and what's changed in force design, 2 MEF information groups, much of what I just described in there from an all-domain operational capability. 2 MEFs abreast has allowed us to put 3 MEF, obviously in Okinawa and Japan, focused on support to Japan and all the actions and activities and investments that we do through that ally. And 1 MEF forward operating, they are Marine Rotational Force Darwin, they are Marine Rotational Force Southeast Asia. For those of you that pay close attention to large exercises like Balikatan, 1st Marine Expeditionary Force is the headquarters for that exercise, which is a joint task force construct in the Philippines. So 2 MEFs abreast is how we present, how we campaign in the Indo-Pacific, specifically in the first island chain. Probably more significant to the question, perhaps based on what Admiral Kaler said on Tuesday about weapons engagement zone. You've heard it, in this case, I hope you've heard the Marine Corps referred to as the stand-in force. It's not going anywhere but forward, right? There's not a withdrawal plan. It doesn't exist. It's not in our ethos. It's not what we do. It's going to locate, close with, and destroy when it has to. Otherwise, it's going to hold what it has because that's what it does, alongside our allies. So that's kind of the once-over on 2 MEFs abreast. I hope that answers the question, whoever asked it.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, how do you see AI being integrated down into the ground tactical units to improve their ability to meet mission goals?
Yeah, I'll do my best to answer it, but I'll tell you what I was reminded on Tuesday when I was taken upstairs. You're asking the wrong guy. I should have brought a sergeant from 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment with me today. I thought about it, actually. Every once in a while I play golf on the weekends with some of these guys, and they're from the Marine Littoral Regiment, and I learn. It looks like I'm playing golf. I'm actually learning, right? It's work. I should have brought one of them with me today so they can answer this, how they're doing it. How do we, not only how do I see it, I'll leave it to the experts later, how do I know it's being done now? It's being used by tactical units, first and foremost, not in a surprising way, to project their logistic needs and apply pressure to the supply chain so that the things that they require are where they're required to be when they're required to be there in a predictive way, without having to store, build an iron mountain, if you will, in locations. I mean, that's one way. It is being used to assess, how far can I go here? These are always the problems with answering some of these questions. It's being used to assess what communication systems can be utilized in the environments I described. What communication systems can be used in an urban environment? How do those have to be modified, adapted, turned on or off when we move to a suburban environment? How about when we get outside of all that and we're in a true rural environment? Let me put it in a different way. You and I know there are military-specific waveforms that shine a spotlight on you when you turn them on. And in the environment we operate on, that immediately makes you a target. And so AI is being leveraged by these units to predictively help them decide which are the waveforms that have to be addressed and when they have to be addressed to make sure that they don't find themselves even on the periphery of that spotlight. There's a ton of use technologies. We, in the intelligence world right now, we're using it to say, hey, you've watched a friend or an adversary do these things over the last 90 days, right? We fed that stuff into the machine. Based on historical actions and activities, how do you predict they will behave as it relates to that capability in the next 90 to 180 days? And that information can be presented in a Word format, a document that you get, say, out of any large language model, but we're also getting it now in a graphical depiction, right? That can be seen. That used to take, how long would that take? Some of you did these jobs. If you were an analyst, how long did you have to sit over imagery and create the PowerPoint slide that had to be presented? That happens between when we go off watch at 2200 the night before and we show up at 0500 in some of these exercises. That's been generated and is waiting for us to receive, thanks to AI integration into some of these systems. So I hope that gives you some idea. The real trick for AI for us is it's got to be done somewhere else. The compute power, the power generation, like we cannot make the load on that tactical unit I just described any greater. Not just because they can't physically carry it, it's pretty hard to hide with some of the things that we're thinking about right now. That has to be done somewhere else. That has to stay right here on Hawaii, and we have the ability to get them the information, or they have the ability to pull the information, what they need, only what they need, only when they need it, so that we're not shining a beam down on them all the time, making them susceptible to assessment of what they might really be. I think that's the challenge for us. Yeah, I'll stop there. Story after story.
All right, thank you, sir. Another question from the audience. Can you share how MAR4PAC is leveraging unmanned systems and autonomous platforms to enhance situational awareness and survivability in the maritime domain?
Yeah, sure. Across the Marine Corps, there is a energized effort to use small unmanned systems. There's no surprises in this, right? I won't describe it to a great extent. That enable that tactical knowledge. What we seek are are the ability for those unmanned systems to mesh themselves together. On the way over here, I was talking with one of the colonels that came over. You know, if you saw the drone, what do they call it, art that was done in Rome, you know, at the Vatican, you saw where all that was pre-programmed and, you know, things moved and lit up and, you know, looked like a 4th of July type thing. You know, the ability for how we're using them now is one operator operates a system, and that system enables a unit. That's super helpful. How do we need them to be used? One operator operates one unit. That unit influences the actions of multiple other units. The multiple other units, all unmanned, feed what I described earlier. And we don't have to have additional people to maneuver each one of these things. They're maneuverable across, you know, by moving one, a number of others move in accordance with them in order to synthesize things together. I would say it's the same with autonomous platforms. If you think about, if you've seen or you will see on November 9th, we're in Camp Pendleton 2 Saturdays ago for the amphibious demonstration, 250th birthday of the Navy and Marine Corps. That's coming out on, some of it was demonstrated live, but it was all filmed, and that'll be out in a video on, Veterans Day weekend. When you watch that video, think about all the people in all those systems coming across the beach. Think about the landing craft air cushion and the number of people it takes to move one of those from the ship to the shore. Think about the number of people it took to launch the airplanes and allow the airplanes, you know, rotary wing, fixed wing, either way, you know, what it took them to get along, and where do we need autonomous platforms to go? Think about what's going to take to supply them, right? Then, when you see the rogue Nemesis, right, the naval strike missile firing capability we have, when you see that thing come off, and you recognize there's 2 vehicles to it, and one of them has no people in it, and has an autonomous firing capability. I mean, there's a person in the loop here. I don't want to build a false impression, but think about where that can go if the one launch vehicle had multiple, you know, the one command vehicle had multiple launch vehicles, and they all didn't come across the same beach at the same time. That's where we are, and that's kind of where we want to go. That's in one scenario. Autonomous platforms, I'll come back to the communication. This is FC, I'll come back to the communication piece. This interconnected system of communication means low bandwidth, military waveform, you know, high power, low power, everything I've brought up earlier, and their ability to interface. Their ability to work collaboratively to optimize the path that ensures the highest level of survivability, the highest level of confidence in the information they're getting, the highest level of, you know, everything that you can think of. That from an autonomous perspective, that's what we need going on in the background. That one person monitoring in a combat operations center can go, nope, we're good. That precision, navigation, and timing is good. We continue. All data provided is valid. Continue. Like one person, not people in every combat operations center doing it. We need people to do only what people have to do, and what people have to do with these systems, in our view, is we have to have a person in the loop. Stop. A person, not multiple people, right? And then we need the systems and the platforms to autonomously, you know, make recommendations or make the repairs or recommendations for what the most efficient means to move information is. Fair enough? One more, is that it?
Thank you, sir. We have time for 2 more questions.
Do we? All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they must be good ones. Go ahead.
So what is your biggest concern or the Marine Corps' most urgent need to be fully prepared for potential conflicts in the region?
Yeah, this is a bit of a cop-out, but as I hope you picked up in the conversation, like moving at speed. industry being willing to partner with, I'll only speak from our 4-pack now, to partner with us to fail. Got no problem when it doesn't work. And let me, actually some feedback for you. Here's what I find about industry right now, and I give this to our acquisitions folks in the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab. You all know enough about what we need to do that you're coming out with really good stuff. And I'll tell you what we need. What we need is, when you come with it, don't come with one with the intention to take it home with you and all the data that was collected while we conducted an exercise together. Come with 5. Take 1 or 2 home and leave 3 with us. And we'll continue to work on it. We'll give you access to all the data that's coming off of it, and we'll do everything we can to break it with the goal of making it better. And because in this dynamic moment, we have to be ready to fight tonight. And we are going to fight with what we have, not what the acquisition system can get us 5 years from now. And so if we have the prototypes can move very quickly to what we actually operate on. And if you look back, if you ask the panels, the one coming up after me, if you look back over the course of the last 5 years and where we are now, you'll see that the Joint Fires Network was not the Joint Fires Network. It was the amalgamation of some prototypes that folks saw opportunity in and put together, and now we've created a capability that my own service 9 months ago had a colonel tell me, but sir, that's not a program of record. My response, I don't care. It's what we're using. It's what we're going to have to use. We have to move at speed. So what's my biggest concern? Your ability to provide those prototypes, your trust to leave those prototypes, and our ability to continue to turn prototypes into programs of record and program of record to deliver on the timelines that we believe we need. And you know the timeline, right? So we're working in weeks and months, not years, out here in the Indo-Pacific, certainly in Mar 4-pack, but true for all of us. One more.
Thank you, sir. The final question. In the spirit of this year's TechNet focus on advancing joint all-domain readiness, what are the critical skills young cyber and information leaders must develop to meaningfully contribute to our nation's mission in the Indo-Pacific?
Young cyber and what? Information? Yeah, well.
Yes, sir.
Somewhat sarcastically, the biggest thing they need to do is educate folks like me to get out of the way and enable them to do the things that they need to do. But what are the critical skills? If I were going to recommend, if I were upstairs with those young folks that you kindly brought me up to see the other day, I would recommend integration. If I were going to recommend a major, I guess I'd recommend a systems engineer. And if I were to identify one of our critical capabilities, the JICO, the Joint Integration Control Officer, the ability to integrate these things, the ability to understand, cyber folks and information leaders better than everybody understand data, like making systems that produce data that's usable to all, at least in our world. I understand in your world why proprietary data might be a business advantage to us. It's a disadvantage if it's proprietary. It's got to be shareable. It's got to be integratable. And cyber and information leaders that know and understand that, know how to integrate it, can help folks like me see my way through. If I'm transparent and honest with you, I went the all-domain operations center at one of our MEFs. The first time I went to it, which is now about a year ago, I had a warrant officer, an E7 gunnery sergeant, an E5 sergeant, and an E4 corporal talking to me about technical things that they were doing and working on that I had no idea what they were saying. But I started to get a tear in my eye, grateful that there are folks on our team at that age, corporal sergeant, 21, 2, 3, that know and understand this stuff. And that, back to my point about the young folks, was like, man, A, I got to make sure they stay on our team. B, we got to make sure that they have what they need and are able to do it. C, right, like we have to break down, for us, we have to break down, I guess that would be the other thing for young cyber and information folks. Make it clear to folks like me where we need to break down the barriers. You know, the things we face right now, just so you're clear with it, authorities to operate, firewalls, you know, things that allow young Marines that know how to do these things only to do them. Well, that stuff is established for 30-day periods, and they can't continue to use their skills week after week, day after day. And that's something that I know is our responsibility at the MARFOR level, to create an environment where, you know, I know why we do it on the tech side in order to protect the networks. But I guess, you know, if I were going to look at all of you and say, you can help us there, if we can protect our network but create an environment where folks can practice their skills in cyber and information, that's what we need. But to go back to the question, I think the most compelling thing that young folks can offer is an understanding and an acknowledgement of how we can integrate these technologies we have now and the ones they think they can see coming. I guess that's it. Thank you all. I've really enjoyed it. Appreciate the time. Thank you, ma'am.
We do have a presentation for you.
Oh, okay.
We'll get some comments. So, General, thank you very much. On behalf of AFCEA International and AFCEA Hawaii, mahalo for your time today, your insights, and your challenges. You talked about the need to deliver capability to the tactical edge. You talked about the need to maneuver at the speed of decision and lethality. You talked about the need of seamless battlefield integration. You talked about the need to engage multiple domains at once. You talked about the need for information that's needed to know, assured, collaborated, synchronized, shared, and actionable. You talked about the need to have industry partner with you to fail. And you talked about the need for these capabilities now and at speed. I would also offer a big mahalo because I was the one that dragged you upstairs to spend time with our middle and high school students and capture the flag and drones. And later, if you want, I'll be taking donations because I do have a video of the general flying one of the drones.
Didn't crash, I'm just saying.
So as a thank you for all our speakers this week, we will be making a donation to the Friend of Windward Wounded Warriors.
Thank you.
And we also will present you with the highly coveted 40th anniversary of the AFCEA TechNet Indo-Pacific. And I ask that you give your attention to the MC as we finish for remarks about the rest of the day.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Really grateful for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant General Glynn, for that informative and insightful presentation. Before we conclude this event, I have a few admin remarks. If you're not an AFCEA member yet, it's the third day, and it's not too late. So if you'd like to become a member, please go to the AFCEA membership booth at 1435 on the exhibit floor to sign up today. At 0900, morning grins meal will be served at the main exhibit floor. And at 0930, there will be a J6 panel titled Assured C4/Cyber here. And AFCEA is providing parking validation at booth 1435, so please stop by and get your parking validated by noon today. Lastly, please join us at 11:45, where Lieutenant General Joshua Rudd, Deputy Commander, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, will be our closing keynote speaker. Thank you, and this concludes this morning's keynote event. Thank you.